Good evening, YouTube, and welcome to Dante's Inferno. I am Loco Diablo, and I'm bringing you another vampire clan deep within the archives of Vampire the Masquerade, and the clan I'm bringing you is Children of Osiris. Now, Children of Osiris first appeared in The Hunters Hunted. It was very an odd, sort of emergement that they did, because in the Hunters Hunted, it was about playing humans and fighting just regular humans, maybe psychics if that, but pretty much just playing regular humans hunting vampires. And then just out of the blue they just throw in a vampire clan that really almost had nothing to do with hunting vampires. It would almost made more sense to put in like some sort of werewolf tribe, or that just was terrorizing, or another vampire clan that actually was maybe killing vampires, maybe even to think that it would one day bring them human again. But no, they put in some monks that almost didn't even fit in this. But despite that, this is a clan that I actually do like, that I have brought in a few times. Basically, Children of Osiris are a bunch. That's what they are. They are monks. They are head shaving, male and female head shaving monks from any clan. They will accept membership from any clan. Pretty much the followers of Set they will not because they won't accept them, but the followers of Set will never do it. Because they are sworn enemies to them. Now, they first got their start in ancient Egypt. The Osiris was a high court. He was in the high courts, and an aristocrat vampire wanted to gain influence within the high courts of Egypt, and embraced Osiris. Well, Osiris was quite upset by this embracing, and he just hated the whole thing, and so he went to deep meditation and just deep discipline, and he ended up creating this ability, which is later called Bardo. And then by then he was gaining followers, and these followers were starting gaining more influence and becoming stronger, and the followers of Set weren't really happy with that. So Set himself ended up getting Osiris and killing him. Not just killing him, but ripping him into pieces, and then taking his bodies and scattering them all over Egypt. Now, it's written a little bit differently between books, but pretty much it was either a follower or one of his children. But it was one of his. Ideally, it was one of his children. A female goes and finds all these pieces, and she takes all these pieces, brings them back to the temple, and his remaining followers, which were almost wiped out from the followers of Set, they spent their blood, they poured their blood over these remains, and I'm not even sure if they knew that's what they were wanting to do, but it sounded like they were trying to actually revive him, but it worked. His body parts started to reform, and he regained consciousness, and had gained like even deeper consciousness than before. But he lost the ability to create children. He couldn't even create ghouls. So the clan, and it's kind of obscure how it's written, that whether or not, it pretty much is assumed that they can create children, but they will not create children. They only gain membership by gaining membership. They do not create members, which kind of makes sense, because in some of their powers they actually have the ability to prevent humans from becoming embraced. So they only accept members. Now, to become a member, you have to at least have humanity at 8. Now, that's mechanically. Now, obviously, story-wise, you're going to have that type of reputation. Otherwise, how's anyone going to know what your humanity is? So, ideally, you're going to need to have a very good reputation to even be accepted into this group. Now, this group was almost was always long thought been destroyed. So they are in hiding, which is why they just are just very obscure instead of being part of the normal like 13. So they are deep within hiding, and their temples, and they do have temples, and their temples will be like, they'll be in mountains, they'll be in obscure places, they might even be hidden in plain sight, but they will be in fact hidden. So they rarely leave these temples. These followers do not leave these temples. They will send out ghouls and retainers if there's anything that they need. So if they even leave the temples, they will start becoming easier to be frenzied. I mean, there's almost like an attachment to these temples, because they've learned like a form of Gakana, but it's not truly Gakana. I mean, this is almost a temporary form of it, where they can like avoid their certain flaws that they have, as you know, to their vampire condition. So this was either like a first edition. I think it was a first edition. It was either a first edition or a second edition supplement. It never made to the revised. They never made this to the revised, and the closest thing they came to a Hunter's book was those almost supernatural style Hunters. So they never really revised this. They are actually now working on a part 2 for this book, and it is under my understanding they haven't even started it yet. So they are. And I was actually quite surprised that they even brought them into the V20. But they did. They brought them in. They said that they want to bring in like almost every clan. And I was actually kind of surprised on the write-up that they were given, that they did give them a 2-page write-up, not including the space that it took for their discipline, Bardot. And that is what their discipline's called, Bardot. Their clan weakness for these is whatever their clan is, because they can gain membership from other clans. I mean, it's very similar to, you know, the bloodlines for vampire, you know, the Requiem. They will actually gain membership from any clan, provided that in almost everyone except for the followers set. But it's not. It doesn't really sound like it's because they will refuse it. It's more because the followers set will never ever join this thing. And so why on earth would someone want to join this? Well, they have found at least a temporary solution to their vampire condition. It's very similar to this Gokana, and it does have some sort of results. So there is a very much appeal to this. However, it will only the flaw to this discipline Bardot is that they cannot have any and it appears as though I have my cat Mojo. This is my cat Mojo's wanted to join in. So the flaw is that they have to maintain at least their humanity rank of it. So basically, if the example they give is if they have it at rank 9, if they lose the humanity point, if they go to 8, they lose that ability. Now they can't gain it back until their humanity raises, but by then you've lost it. I mean, you're gonna have to relearn it. You're gonna have to re-put experience down in it. So that's basically the flaw, and it's not too terrible of a flaw, because it is, you know, I mean, at low levels it's gonna be 1 or 2 points, and generally you're gonna be playing your character much higher than 1 or 2 points. And when I first started reading this, when I first was bringing this in, you know, back in the day, I was under the impression that they can actually reach beyond levels. Anyone can actually reach beyond levels 5. But actually rereading this, I see no mentioning of that. So that's how I kind of ran it back in the day, because that's what I understood it to mean, because that's actually kind of how the Katana actually works. So I kind of assumed that that's how it actually meant. But even if you just get it up at 5, I mean, that you got to at least be able to maintain humanity at 5. That's not so unbelievably terrible. So, the other part of this is that they do not make children. They only accept memberships. Now, again, I was actually quite surprised that they even brought this in, due to the fact this was a, this never made it. They never made it and saw light of day to the revised. So I was actually quite surprised, and actually pleasantly surprised, because this was something that I did bring in my stories. In fact, I was gonna, if they never brought this in, I was probably gonna continue bringing them in. So I'm kind of glad that they gave, they brought them back. The updates to them, very little. Now, they originally, in the original book, Further Bardo, they had a second level 9 power, and that was to resurrect a vampire from dead. And I actually think it makes more sense in their Raya's Blessing, which their other level 9, which is basically allows you to walk in the daylight, since there's no mentioning of in their history to be able to walk in the daylight. Yeah, able to walk fully in the sunlight. Since it makes actually more sense for them to still have that ability to resurrect from the dead. But we're talking level 9 power. I mean, it would not be very hard to actually just add that in. So why would you want to actually play these? These are monks. I mean, these don't really sound very playable. Well, if you're playing a character who's trying to do Gokana, I would definitely recommend this, because ideally, player to storyteller, it's really just, that's more of an end game thing. You're probably never going to actually meet that within your character's lifetime. Now, but with this, you can actually start off with it. You could actually start with this. Now, it's not the same thing as Gokana, but it's at least a form of it. So if that is what you're looking to get into, it is at least a decent supplement to actually be able to use. And their abilities aren't very bad. Like, the first one is actually to regain lost humanity. Like, the second one is actually to resist abilities being used on you. Everything from auspics being used on you. And it basically just takes away the opponent's successes. The next one is to be able to feed off of animals as though you're feeding it from a human. Generally, animals have a lot less blood, so then what that would do is it would give you, one, rat is going to have the equivalence of a full-blown male. So, I mean, things like that is actually, quite useful to be able to do. Now, as a storyteller, why are you going to want to just bring this in as an NPC? Well, there's many types of story arcs that you can actually use to bring these in. And, for one of them is the fact that they are sworn enemies to the followers of Set. So if you're finding that your players, or if you just have a big follower of Set storyline going on, these would be, excellent NPCs to actually be able to bring in. Again, I'm quite pleasantly surprised and glad that they did bring these in, but even if they didn't, I would have, I would have just recommended it from this product. But, at this point, I just want to give one last message to the followers of Set that they should have been paying attention to the details. Next time you destroy one of your enemies, make sure that they do not have the ability to bring back their dead, or you'll be facing them in the final nights. Thank you for watching.